It's a sunny day again. What does that mean? Well, that means that we are charging our solar again on good old sunshine. So to spare some battery, because I was pretty low down a couple of days ago at 11.9 volts, which is probably about 40% ish on this battery. To spare it some capacity, I actually turned the fridge up to 8 degrees Celsius. So that's kind of helped to bump up the overall capacity, bump up what we can charge from um, both the car and solar. So right now I'm pulling in about 3.1 amps off of the solar. Not great, right? But considering that it's probably just a 60-watt panel with a PWM controller, that's pretty good. That's about what, 40 watts, something like that. um, yeah, we got a pretty sunny day. I've set this panel up on the car. It seems to give me the best vantage point as far as getting sunshine is concerned. Now this is kind of a secluded spot, and I do have some clouds right now, so I'm not expecting a whole bunch of energy to come in, but it should be enough to sort of charge us up. So yeah, it's all about how you set the fridge, how low you set the fridge. I was running it like very cold for the first couple of days. It was very sunny, so I was basically replenishing that the energy lost overnight. Not a problem with just the solar, exactly the same setup as I have right now, just sitting at the top of the solar panel, just the solar panel sitting atop of the car. Yeah, so lessons learned. First thing, I probably should have measured the battery before taking it out, not just trusting that, you know, it's a new battery, it's got 105 amp hours. That's something that I definitely would do differently next time. Secondly, definitely I feel that setting the temperature of the fridge is important. How you set the temperature of the fridge. I started it in freezer mode because we did have some frozen food with us on the trip. So freezer mode does blow through a lot more of amperage than setting it to a higher temperature. But yeah, for the first 4 days we had it set to, well, coming here in the car we had it set to like -8. Then I set it to -3 when we were set up, and then for the first 4 days that was fine. And then on day 5 we sort of went down to 12.1 volts overnight, and then the next day it was 12 volts overnight, and then the next day it was 11.9 volts overnight. So that was a lesson learned. And then I bumped up the temperature up to yeah, when we got to the point where it was going to 12 volts, I bumped it up to 3 degrees because I didn't have any more frozen food. And then I bumped it up to 8 now, and 8 seems to be, I mean, producing quite good results, right? So right now we can see it's the middle of the day, so it's about what time is it right now? Let me check the time. Yeah, it's 1:30. So we can already see here I got 12.7, 12.8, 12.9 even on the controller itself. I'm sorry if you have to do this, if you read this. Yeah, right now it's just 0.8 amps, but still 12.9 means that if I take down the charging, it's going to settle at about 12.7. So before it was already charging at 13.1, which means it was pumping up more and more. And of course the voltage will increase as the battery accepts as the battery accepts more current, right? So when the battery charges, the actual voltage to charge it will have to increase. So the controller kind of checks what the battery voltage is, and then adjusts the voltage that it's feeding the battery, because you got to start slow, and then the voltage curve sort of rises up. That means that, you know, the closer you are to about 80%, the faster you're going to get to the capacity. But then after 80%, the battery resistance rises, so you'll actually have worse charging conditions, right? It'll slow down. But since I'm feeding it 3 amps, and this is 105 amp hour battery, so it actually it will be like C divided by 5. So we could charge it by like with 21 amps. 21 amps is what this battery would be happy to get charging. So that's yeah, we're trickle charging as far as this battery capacity is concerned. So it'll feed that 3.1 amps, 3.3 amps that I'm getting right now up until like 95%. Only then will it taper off at about 2 amps at the end of the day. But I'm gonna have a whole calculation of what this battery is all about, what the charging curve is like, as soon as I get home and I do some more measurements, because I do need to get some more measurements in to set up an optimal approach for charging this. I do have a charger also, a trickle charger on the way, a new one, not just the one that I was showing in my previous video. I've got a Noco Genius 7200, which is a 7.2 amp charger. It's got like lithium, it's got a standard and an AGM battery setting. So, and it can charge 12 and 24 volts. Yeah, that will be interesting to try and see what triple the money of that cheap charger that I bought buys you, right? Not just the 0.2 amps, but we'll see if it brings the battery up to a higher charging voltage, which it should. This cheap one is just tapers off at 14.4 volts, which is supposed to be the top sort of charging voltage for a traditional battery, but AGM batteries will go up to 14.8, possibly between 14.6 and 14.8. So we'll see if that charger makes any difference. Anyway, that's it for the update. Enjoy the views.